1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, that's me. Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 7, Annex A, Advancing Your Draw Stroke. In this episode, I want to talk to you specifically about striker-fired firearms. You know, the plastic, never classic one, that when the door was shut on the purchase of new firearms, you managed to skate into the store and get, one of the high-tech, more modular type polymer frame firearms that are available. I want to address it specifically for you today, and some other techniques that will advance for those who are in the semi-automatic category. As per normal, I've sanitized the firearms that I'm using and all the equipment. I've sanitized my body and the area around me. There is no live ammunition available or readily available to me for this dry training process. And we always start with the 4 universal firearm safety rules. And that is, rule number 1, I'll treat every firearm as if it's loaded. Rule number 2, never point the firearm at anything you do not wish to kill or destroy. Number 3, don't put your finger on the trigger until your sights are on the target and you've made a conscious decision to shoot. Rule number 4, know your target and beyond. Everything around it, under it, over it, because you can't operate your firearm safely with tunnel vision ongoing. Now, on to the training concept. We talked about stages of the draw and how I prefer to use the 5 stages. In the case of this firearm, this is what it will look like for a draw stroke practice, dry fire and training. In the case of these striker fired firearms, like this one, okay, you'll note there is no manual safety on it anywhere. There is no manual safety on it anywhere like a 1911 or, say a Beretta 92 or something like that. In the case of this, the safety is right here. It is in the trigger, okay? That safe action trigger is the ideal design behind these striker fired firearms. Is the safety is built into the trigger itself. In the case of this firearm, you still have to cock it. You can't, there's no external hammer or anything. You would have to cock it to ready the striker to do your dry fire training. And because it's a Smith & Wesson style firearms, you can't dry fire it unless there's a magazine in it. So when we start this process then, I want to start right from the ground floor and show you how I would go through that process for my dry training and perfecting my draw stroke. And it starts like this, as per normal. I look it into the holster. It's in there, it's secure. I have on my body magazines, and I'm starting to get in the habit of setting things up as I would for the particular sport I'm going to engage in. Whether it's IPSC, IDPA, cowboy action, bullseye. Start looking at your gear in that sense and start getting used to wearing it just as if you were in the competition. And if it's the zombie apocalypse championship, world championships that you're planning for, do it that way too. Prep for it by wearing your gear as if you were getting into that game. So here's what it's going to look like. In order to start my dry firing, I need to prep this firearm. Okay, it's a Serpa holster. I got a little button here. I get a hold of it, like my first and final grip. I bring it out parallel to the range floor. In the world of where we're training with live ammunition, I would have to load it, and I start developing those techniques as if I was in that mode. So when I reach for my magazine, note how it comes out of the magazine holder. Okay, my index finger is up the front of the magazine so that it's all lined up and ready to go in the magazine well. When I push the gun out here towards the target, note it's always pushing towards the target. I'm going to cant it slightly. I'm going to insert the magazine until I hear it click. I'm going to use my Arnold Schwarzenegger pec muscles, push a little bit, and make sure I hear the click. I don't want to get in the habit of slapping it in. Not good for your magazines. It's like hitting it with a dead blow hammer, and you can actually cause damage to the magazine over time. So push it in until you hear it click. Flex those muscles a little bit, show off to the girls. Flex, click. Now, in this condition, if it's been fired, I cannot pull the trigger and make it go click. What I need to do is cycle the slide just a little bit. If I cycle it all the way, because it has an empty magazine, note, slide locks open automatically on an empty magazine. Now I can release it by pushing the slide lock, okay? But it's just as easy from here that I can reach out, pull it just halfway, let it go. Now it will be armed and I can dry fire with it. I can return it to the holster. Now, if I'm going to do the stages of the draw, you're new to it, you're still counting it, it's going to sound or look something like this. Stages of the draw, stage 1, first and final grip. Stage 2, up straight out of the holster. Stage 3, parallel to the floor. Stage 4, I'm going to push it forward towards my target. Stage 5, if I had to disengage any safeties, I would, but in this case, I don't have to do anything but put my finger on the trigger and pull it, and you can hear the click. Now, I cannot just return it to the holster, push it back out there for a dry fire, and get it to click again. It's striker fired. There's no external hammer to cock. So what I need to do is, while it's out here, pull it back just enough, let it go. And then it will be armed and ready to, you heard the click, fire again, dry fire training. That is one of the drawbacks of dry fire training with this style of firearm, the striker fired ones. In order to do that, you actually have to break your grip, come up here, and recock the mechanism by pulling the slide back just a little bit. So I would do that. Pull it back a little bit, and then instead of doing another dry fire shot, I'm going to get it ready to return to the holster. Finger off the trigger alongside the body of the gun. Look it into the holster. It's safe to go in. Put it in gently. Thing about striker fired guns, the safety mechanism is in the trigger. If you're wearing anything that's going to get in the trigger guard as you're pushing it in, anything that's in there will push on the trigger, provide resistance. Don't push harder. It's not a case of where you should get a bigger hammer. You push harder, the trigger doesn't care what's pushing it. You can discharge it while you're forcing it into an ill-fitting holster or a holster that has something obstructing it going in properly and safely. Remember that. And it's like I always say, you can train to get the gun out of the holster as fast as humanly possible. I'm okay with that. But when you put it back, take the time to put it away slowly and correctly and safely. If you're putting it away, don't be in a rush. Just like I said before, if you're that person who is working in the environment where you have a sidearm, you're using a sidearm, and suddenly the person next to you has a sucking chest wound, and you need both hands to duct tape that Snicker bar wrapper over the opening, you're going to jam it in there as fast as you can. But in the case of this style of gun, be very careful with jamming it in the holster when it's armed and ready quickly, because there's an issue with that. Now, I'm going to do another draw stroke. I'm going to do it without counting out loud, doing it just nice and smooth from the holster. Whatever position you want to start is fine by me. First and final grip, out, push it towards the target, fire the shot. All good. Okay? One of the other things I want to emphasize with you is when you draw it from the holster, from here to here, envision there's a laser in the end of this that's coming out. And as soon as it gets this far out, the laser would be showing up in the center of the target that I'm focused on engaging. And no matter where the gun is in the stroke, in the draw stroke, the laser would be there the whole time. Here's what it would look like with a laser. I happen to have one. Not that I'm condoning the use of a laser or the lack thereof. So this holster will not accept the firing with the laser on, but envision that I've drawn from the holster and I've gone to stage 3, which is right here. Now the laser is on, and look where the laser is. And through the process of my draw stroke, I would like that laser to stay in the center of the target all the way out to here, okay, until I line the sights up. And that is A, the most efficient way, and 2, it covers off a lot of bases in the zombie apocalypse world. Because from here, if I need to fire a shot from here because it's necessary, the laser's on the target, fire the shot. If I need to fire a shot right here, because it's necessary, the laser's on the target, fire the shot. And I can get all the way out here and fire the shot. In any part of that stroke, in an emergency, in the zombie apocalypse Olympics, I can fire a shot. Just know, those are advanced skills. These are not skills you start training on. Start training on a good, positive, safe draw stroke and getting good trigger manipulation, independent trigger finger, and building proper technique. That's the truth about that. Now, the other side effect of this is here in Canada, in certain parts of our great country, the ranges are built in built up areas and they have berms. But because they're in built up areas, they have rules like no high muzzles. So although you want to reach up here and charge it by doing this, pulling it in tight, invariably, look where the muzzle goes. And on ranges that have relatively low berms and rules that say no high muzzles, somebody's going to point it out. Not only that, these are technical devices and they can fail. If when I'm charging my firearm or loading my firearm and making it ready, for say, I've drawn it from the holster, I'm going to put ammunition in it. This is my magazine. I'm going to put ammunition in it and seat the magazine. Now I want to put a cartridge in the chamber. But what if you're that knucklehead who had it out in the rain a couple of months ago and never cleaned it, and now your firing pin is seized all the way forward, sticking out? When I do this and I release it to go forward, if that firing pin is sticking out or if the mechanism is broken, it might discharge a live round. I'm okay. It's going to be a surprise, but it's going to go in the middle of the target. When it's here and you're doing it this way, it's not going to go in the middle of the target. Or if you're doing it here, it's not going to go in the middle of the target. So I want you to train this way. Understand, this is not the only way. This is a suitable, safe way, depending on where you train. For me, I've always been that person who trains that. I put it out here. If I'm going to charge it, okay, and then load it, make it ready, like this. Thing to remember, you can hold the gun between two fingers. No matter how heavy the spring is, you can push it forward. No matter how heavy the spring is, you can punch it forward because you're using your back and shoulder muscles, not your biceps. And even people I know who have biceps the size of elephant testicles have trouble cocking the 1911 by pulling the slide back against a full power spring. But even a 13-year-old girl learning to do it this way, pinch the slide, push the gun, will be able to do it with the heaviest of recoil springs. This is where I want you to start. Okay? Stages of the draw. First and final grip. Stage 2, up and out. Stage 3, parallel to the range floor. Envision the laser is pointing in the center of the target. Okay, stage 3. Stage 4, push it together, meet your hands, bring it up to your eye, line up the sights. Stage 5, fire the shot. You go to put it back, make sure it's in a safe condition to go in the holster. Look it into the holster, make sure it's safe to go in. Put it in the holster slowly, ensure it locks securely in place. That's the addendum for the striker fired firearms. There's really no difference between that and the single action revolver. The stages of the draw are the same, 1 through 5. Focus on the safety aspects of the stages of the draw. And like I said, you can train to get fast out of the holster, but focus on being slow and safe when putting it back. If you're putting it away, even in the zombie apocalypse, it means you don't need it anymore. In which case, you're not in a rush. And that would bring me to the conclusion of Annex A.